We're live. Okay, let's get the guest. Free Palpatine. Hello, my friend.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Yes.
We're talking Star Wars, my favourite thing in the universe. Thank you very much, Mr. Brown.
I think we got that F word just under the 7 seconds. Z3PO.
Well, hello, Mr. Brown. Pleasure to be
Hello.
back so soon. So
soon. Price of Reason.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Sky? Good to see you, mates. Cheers, Ian.
Yep,
All right.
I'm here.
You all right?
Yep.
And new to the panel is the footballs. Hello.
Cheers,
matey.
everyone.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Okay, we'll finish off the rest of the slides, everybody. Good to see you. The 17 people watching this are the coolest kids on YouTube. 19 people, coolest kids on YouTube at the moment. Okay, so it was Star Wars Day yesterday.
It was.
Star Wars.
Real Star Wars Day, not the May the 4th bollocks.
Ian, do you like Star Wars?
Not Disney Star Wars.
Do
I
you
don't
like
Disney
Star Wars? Does anybody like Star Wars?
We used to.
We did.
Although I do agree with him that having a cameo from Janursa would have been very, very lame.
Yeah, she's far too good looking to be in that show.
It just wouldn't have made sense.
Tony Gilroy says having a Jyn Erso cameo in Andor
Ando,
would have been
Andalorian.
lame. Yes.
Did you hear that Tony Gilroy stole the whole thing? So it looks
What?
like he was responsible for Andor, when really it was
No.
Gareth Edwards that did it. Gareth Edwards doesn't get mentioned. Have you not noticed that? And also, he stole the Bourne Identity as well. Basically, fucked everybody around, and then suddenly ended up directing the last the one before. What is it? What's that one with what's his name? Hawkeye in it.
Yeah, the Bourne,
whatever it was,
fourth
Legacy,
one.
or whatever it was. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Are you saying that the Lord Saviour of Star Wars, Tony Gilroy, is a big fat tea leaf?
He is, yeah, apparently. So basically, the story goes that when they were doing Bourne Identity or Bourne, the Bourne films, he wrote a screenplay, but the screenplay got overseen, and the people that actually wrote it and made it the way it was, they were responsible. Then he because he was part of it, he kind of snuck his way in. Then suddenly everybody's like, Tony Gilroy, he's responsible for Bourne Identity, and he did the same thing with this as well. Gareth Edwards was the one that actually did most of the work, and he just stole his thunder.
Yeah, I thought we already knew that, but that's pretty on brand for Disney. Just like Kevin Feige taking credit for everyone else's work.
Yeah, surely there should have been some credits on Andor for Gareth Edwards, but there was nothing.
There isn't, because he kind of sabotaged it. Now everybody thinks that Tony Gilroy has made the best Star Wars ever, and it's not. He's not responsible. He just kind of jumped on the bandwagon. Same thing with Feige as well. He did the same thing. So
I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something that may be an unpopular opinion. I have issues with both Gilroy and with Gareth Edwards, and I'll tell you why. Gareth Edwards, in my opinion, his strength is that he knows how to do visual stuff in a very cool way. Sometimes even like with the creator, he did it on a much smaller budget. His visuals are great. And he did a lot of stuff that I really liked on a visual level. With that being said, I think that even in the creator, you can tell that writing isn't necessarily his strength. When it comes to Tony Gilroy, I think that maybe he's a halfway decent writer for some stuff, but I think that they made of him a bigger deal than he was in terms of Star Wars. And bottom line for me, when it comes to Rogue One, and I don't care who donated what and who contributed what, that was a movie that 2/3 of it were mediocre, and the final act of the movie ended up being rather acceptable. Maybe the only 40 minutes that are acceptable from Disney since the day that they bought Star Wars was the final 40 minutes of Rogue One, barely. Because even if you dig into that, what they did with Darth Vader and the strength that they give him, there's a lot of issues there. But let's just say that those 40 minutes are fine. I wouldn't put Tony Gilroy or Gareth Edwards on a pedestal. I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses. In my opinion, still Disney to date haven't brought a real filmmaker to make a Star Wars movie that knows all the ins and outs, like a real brilliant genius. And if they did, then they must have hidden him or not let him do anything. But honestly, I don't even think they hired anybody normal to date.
What about Ruin Johnson?
He's a clown, and he always has been.
Yeah, they haven't brought any real screenwriters either. All of this stuff starts with a good script. If you don't have that, then your foundation is built on sand. But I know in the US, we have rather strict Directors Guild rules about giving credit for certain things. And I'll look into that, because I think maybe Andor should have legally had to say, based on characters created by Gareth Edwards, because that's what they still have to do for George Lucas.
Ian, didn't you say they had a solid script for Rogue One with Edwards?
Well, according to my friend, yeah, they had a solid script, and Edwards got screwed. Everything was going swimmingly, but according to my friend, the reason why it got stopped was because KK didn't like the way, didn't like that the female character wasn't put front and center.
I can believe that, Ian. I actually agree that that's probably what happened. But I will say that by looking at the creator and even some of the Jurassic World, whatever it is that Gareth Edwards did, he doesn't seem like he's a visual artist. I like his visuals, but I don't know that his writing is that great.
It's not. But this is not the issue. The issue is who's responsible for Rogue One. And the question is, he is obviously, and did he get screwed out of his out of what
Credit.
he did?
Yeah.
And he did. Apparently, he did.
He
Tony
probably
Gilroy
did.
did the same thing on Born Identity, because when Paul Greengrass and that Matt Damon stuck up for Tony Gilroy when they were trying to get rid of him because he was crap at writing, and then they suddenly found out that he was making another film when they were doing that film, the Iraq film, whatever those two were doing.
Oh yeah.
At the same time, and he didn't even tell them. Didn't have the courtesy to tell them, because he knew what he was doing. He knew that he wanted credit for other people's work. That's how he operates.
Green Zone?
Yeah, that's how he operates. Tony Gilroy, that's how he operates. What he does, he jumps on the bandwagon, then make himself all important, and then suddenly people think that he's responsible for it when he's taking credit for other people's work. This is what has been saying on the internet, but it also is what my other friends are saying about him as well. So,
did anyone see the retro blasting documentary video they made about a week or so ago regarding Rogue One and what happened behind the scenes and all that business? Did anyone see that?
No. Is that what they said?
I started watching it.
Is that what they
said? It's really exhaustively done. It's brilliantly done. I genuinely suggest giving it a watch. I linked the stream that you guys had a couple of weeks ago when you were mentioning your contact Ian, who was involved
remember
to Michael, who works at who basically is retro blasting, and he says everyone on that panel needs to watch my video on Rogue One. So I tried to share
throw it in the link.
Did you see the video? Did you see the video? No, I'm just saying that was the video close to what my friend was saying. Did Gilroy, steal the thunder, and
well, certain elements are similar, but I think you might be interested because there's a lot of different information and a lot of extra stuff as well that you didn't mention. So I think you might.
Yeah, there were 6 screenwriters on Rogue One, including Christopher McQuarrie.
Dear.
Wow.
And Scott Burns, who did uncredited work. And then there's the Chris Weitz, Gilroy, John Knoll, and Gary Whitta. And I got to think there was a better story in there.
But those people came after Edwards was halfway through shooting his film when they wanted the script changed.
Did he shoot it based on a script he wrote, or did somebody else?
According to my friend, it was based on a script that he wrote.
Oh, okay. I don't see how
I don't know.
I don't see how legally they couldn't give him credit unless he agreed to that for.
No, it depends on the contract that you sign with the studio. Now studios are not stupid. They've been doing it for years and years and years, and they know how to screw someone. They know how to have a contract that's watertight, so you can't say anything. That's why Gareth Edwards hasn't said anything,
Oh,
because he's under
but
contract. He can't say
oh,
anything.
yeah, but the DGA has its own rules. But this might not have been a production that was under the aegis of the Directors Guild of America. Actually,
It was under the Directors Guild of America.
So-
Also under the Writers Guild as well.
it's funny that Price said the last 40 minutes were his favorite, because from what I heard, we would have gotten a lot more of that kind of stuff if the
I
movie
don't
had been
know.
Gareth Edwards' vision.
Yeah.
you know,
I tend to believe what my friend was saying, that Gareth Edwards
Oh,
had,
yeah.
had a good hold on what was going on, and then because
But
they
what-
found out that the girl wasn't front and center, that
But what
they-
he's saying is consistent with the fact that they had a much larger D-Day type battle at the end. That totally
Yeah.
makes sense, because Donnie Yen and the big guy
Yeah.
were sort of leading the charge. And originally the antenna was on a different facility, so they had to fight their way across the beach.
yeah.
Yeah, it's completely consistent with what your friend said.
Yeah, so I don't know, but all I do know is that there are people in this industry that will literally walk all over you just to get a credit or to get known
Damn.
for being
bit like
part of.
YouTube, then, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there are, and again, right. This is what I heard. Tony Gilroy did that to Gareth Edwards, and Gareth Edwards didn't have a leg
Damn.
to stand on. He couldn't say anything because he was under
There's
contract.
a lot of elbowing, and I'm not saying that it's not possible, but I feel like there's a bunch of moving parts in that one. It has to do also with Kennedy herself being
Absolutely.
problematic.
Evil.
It has, you know, the way
Evil.
that she decides on directors, writers, and the way she works with her directors probably led to a lot of problems in Rogue One before Gilroy was ever brought on board. For some reason, they paid him a lot of money, and they considered his work on the movie what saved the production. I will still say that the production still seemed like an issue to me. It's just the last 40 minutes kind of pulled the wool over people's eyes, and they got fooled into thinking that it's actually a good movie, when in fact Rogue One is actually not a good movie. And when it comes to Tony Gilroy, the first movie there was directed by Doug Liman in Bourne Identity.
Yes.
And Doug
Yes.
Liman himself is known as a troublemaker. He basically, he's the same guy that I think he later directed Roadhouse for Amazon.
Yep.
And
Yes.
said that he was angry because they didn't submit it for the Academy Awards when it was one of the crappiest movies I've seen in years. I think Doug Liman did a good enough job with with Edge of
Do you-
Tomorrow.
You know
Uh,
what happened with Doug Liman and the Bourne Identity, don't you? And you know the reason why he didn't get the second one, right?
I think that they had to invent a whole new editing technique that we're suffering from until
Well,
this day, because he couldn't film
yes.
his action scenes properly.
Well,
So they
yes.
did all this weird crap to fix it.
It wasn't that he couldn't film. He didn't know what he was doing, so he was just shooting things off because he used to go. He went on camera himself, and so that's why the when you watch the Bourne Identity, the photography is not all there. It's there, but it's not all there. It's very drab, the photography, because he was literally shooting it like a documentary.
Right.
And it's who's the guy that's married to KK?
Frank
Frank
Marshall.
Marshall.
Frank Marshall. There's a day when he came in and he started shouting at the director because he was just fouling everything up, and he ran away
see.
crying. Apparently, the director ran away crying because he just
Shit.
really had to go at him, and it was Frank Marshall that saved that production. And the reason why when you do the fight sequence, you know, when they have the fights, that they were crossing the line all the time is because Gilroy didn't know what he was doing, and the editor had to be creative with the fight sequences. That's why it's so choppy, right? And then that by default created the style going forward.
Ugh.
by that
Right. And
mistake.
we're suffering from that until this very
Yeah,
day from that
exactly,
movie.
exactly.
So
Exactly. Well,
And
that's
Quantum
yeah.
of Solace suffered from that. Stephen
yeah.
John, Doug Cryman, very good.
I
mean-
guess I guess what I just wanted to quickly say is that it seems like Tony Gilroy, his strength is if there's a problem in a production and there's some problem with some director, he knows how to maneuver his way to the top under those
Yes,
circumstances.
yes.
It seems like he did that with the Bourne Identity and he did that with Rogue One, but I can't put all of those issues just solely on him. And I also can't say that he completely doesn't know how to do anything. I just think that maybe he's overrated, but I don't think he's a complete bum either.
Again, I can only go on what people have told me. I do know a lot of people that worked on Star Wars and other LA productions and stuff like that. But again, right, I'm going to do a doomcock here and say take it with a pinch of salt
With a grain of
because I
salt.
can only tell you
With a
what I've
pinch
been
of salt,
told.
eh?
Yeah,
Is
I
it
can only tell you what
Sparrow?
I've
Is
been
it
told.
Sparrow that gave you the information?
Sparrow.
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, Sparrow. That was the guy who says, "Are you gay?" He's the one to tell me. There you go.
Okay. Shall we? Tony Gilroy was asked about Cassian Andor and Jyn Erso's relationship in Rogue One. I don't think the relationship is inconsistent with the circumstances. Bix has been away for a year. It's a frat house there at the end. Who knows where she is? She left him. They're beautiful, lively people whose hand wouldn't you hold at the end. I think it turns into that, which is cooler and more interesting.
Oh, he describes his work as more interesting. How humble of him.
It's cool that they made Andor a deadbeat father.
Yeah.
Oh, he
Super
didn't
cool.
know. Biggs didn't
Oh, yeah.
tell him.
Yeah.
I've got a theory
guess.
that Biggs is actually his sister, and that
Mm.
baby is Poe Dameron.
Oh yeah.
Whatever happened, the whole series, the events, the inciting incident of that whole series with that stupid thing with the sister. If you remember in the first episode, he goes to the brothel, space brothel, whatever it is, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Where's my sister?" And then they're like, "We don't know where she is." And then he walks out and you see some Imperial people and he shoots them. That's the whole reason this story even started. And they didn't even mention it at the end. Maybe I
No.
said this last time, but I actually don't get it. Why was that? It was so important to the story, never seen again. Also, Andy Serkis, never seen again. That whole thing with the jail, all that stuff. Bix, they built this whole thing. At the end, it's just like there's a scene, she's just in some forest somewhere or some cornfield with some baby, and it's like, okay. I don't know. All of this annoys me, to be honest with you. I'm like a mega geek now.
What,
I'm
Don't wanna be
sorry,
like
but it
me,
really
mate.
annoys me.
You just want an Imperial officer to run out in the last episode of Andor as Andor's taking off in his ship to go onto the Rogue One adventure to go, Cassian, I've got some news about your sister. Just as he blasts off into the upper atmosphere.
I thought Deidre was going to be his sister, and he was going to end up shooting her.
That actually would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
It would have been a nice parallel with her joining the Empire and him
Yeah.
joining the Rebels.
at least
Go ahead.
at least he can be assured that his sister has guaranteed employment and safety for the rest of her life.
Here you go. Dial Up Chronicles, new face. Hello, my friend. Andor was great. Then watched Rogue One again and remembered that was not great.
I didn't mind Rogue One when I saw it in the cinema. I thought it was
It's all right.
entertaining.
It was
Yeah.
passable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thought it-
but that's far from great. There were some good points. Everybody likes K2SO4, and
Yeah.
there were certainly some really good visuals. But yeah, it's just sort of like a their movie. Like there was nothing to get excited about, and a lot of people that sort of gratuitous Vader scene at the end actually pissed a lot of people off.
The thing is, though, right? Even though I do like Gareth Edwards, the way the style of his films, the films that he makes, it's kind of very bland and kind of very matter of fact. What
Right.
you needed, right? You need people that do buckling adventures for
Yes.
Star Wars. Like for instance, the guy who directed what's his Martin Campbell, who directed Zorro. You needed someone like that, or maybe even Robert Rodriguez, or even Spielberg. They have that kind of style that suits Star Wars. That's what you need. There's no
Spielberg
point in
wouldn't have
hiring.
done if they would have. It was still at a point of time where he could have given us a good Star Wars movie. I think
Yes.
that today he's already older. I'm not like
Yes.
counting him out, but I
Yes.
think that if you would have given him like 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was, let him start working on a Star Wars movie and let that be like his kind of grand finale for swashbuckling movies, I feel like he probably could have done a decent job.
He was going to direct Return of the Jedi, but
Right.
because it was an independent production, the
Right.
guild, the Directors Guild wouldn't let Spielberg
What's-
direct it.
Really?
Yes, so that's why they got Richard McQuarrie in. So Spielberg really wanted to direct Return of the Jedi, but he couldn't.
Swappers, can you imagine how good Return of the Jedi would have been with Spielberg directing?
I don't know. I mean, I love it the way it is. I mean, I acknowledge the fact that the Ewoks are a little bit too merchandise orientated, but
Yeah.
and Kashyyyk and the Wookiees probably would have been a better choice. But I still love it for what it is. Absolutely adore that movie. Still my favorite Star Wars film. The cutesiness of it does not detract in any way from how great it is, for me at least.
That was the first Star Wars film you saw, though, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was the second one I saw, but the second one I saw in the cinema.
Right,
I saw
gotcha.
Empire after it.
Right. Gotcha.
But I knew all about Empire before I saw the movie anyway, so it's, it doesn't matter. But the spectacle of it and everything was just, to this day, it will still always be my favorite. But the only thing I wish they'd done with it is made the Ewoks more brutal and sort of vicious, and with all these kick-ass moves. That's the only thing I'd change, really.
Yeah, they should have been Wookiees. The thing about Edwards is he likes his films to feel like massive and epic. So he's always doing these long establishing shots, is really big, interiors and exteriors, but he's kind of shit when it comes to character stuff. And Star Wars is all about the characters.
Well, I mean, there's special kind of directors that can direct certain type of films very, very well. As I said, someone like Robert Rodriguez, someone like Spielberg, they're the ones those kind of directors are the ones you should have hired to do Star Wars, because Star Wars is not a melancholy thing. It's not. Star Wars is a fantasy. It's a fast moving fantasy. If you look at all the three originals, that's what they were. And to divert from that, it's not Star Wars, as far as I'm concerned anyway.
Well, I would have been interested in seeing him do like the space shots and have a different director come in to do the character stuff. That would have been an interesting sort of collaboration.
Yeah.
Because he is really good with the cinematography and especially the epic visuals.
KK is so devoid of any kind of imagination or any kind of sense.
Yes.
Why would you hire someone who directed Logan to direct an Indiana Jones film? His style doesn't even match the Spielberg style of action. It doesn't. Why would you hire someone like that? I would probably went for either Martin Campbell or even Robert Rodriguez to direct the next.
She doesn't
Indiana
know
Jones
anything
film.
about hiring
She
people.
doesn't.
She has no understanding about who she needs to hire and for what reason.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of two things. One, it's pretty clear. I know people are like, well, she made coffee, but I'm going to be nicer. I'm going to say that throughout the years, Spielberg, the likes of Spielberg or Lucas, or whatever it is, sometimes you need somebody on your crew that's just kind of a bitch that tells people you need to go there, you need to go there. And I think that she's probably good at that. You need a person like that, but she's never been creative, and she certainly wasn't going to become creative at the age that most people retire. Most people in their 60s, they get a gold watch and they say, or whatever it is at work, and they tell them, thank you, we'll see you later. And then the person goes in the garden and knits sweaters and stuff. In her case, they said instead of giving her a watch and telling her to get lost, they said, hey, why don't you take over Star Wars? It's all yours. And it's like she already has hundreds of millions of dollars in her bank account. She thinks she's the hottest shit ever when she's not. She's been too accustomed to working with all these guys. She also has a grudge that she's a woman and they didn't say how stunning and brave she was. And she doesn't know anything about science fiction. She doesn't know anything about Star Wars. She never liked Star Wars. She doesn't know how to hire anybody that knows how to do anything. And then the whole franchise went into the garbage.
And she doesn't even make good coffee.
No, yeah. Do you remember the one thing Steven Spielberg said she was good at and gave her credit for? It was one thing, and it wasn't coffee. Do you remember?
No, she would annoy him. He thought she was annoying, and that goes hand in hand to what I said, that I think he needed somebody. Sometimes a guy like Spielberg, and I've seen this before. You have a guy like Spielberg. He's not going to come up to a guy and say, "I hate what you're doing. You're fired. Get lost." But he can go to Kathleen Kennedy and say, "Hey, Kathy, can you tell that guy that he's kind of annoying and tell him to get lost?" And then she goes and she's like, excuse me, get lost. So fine, maybe she's good at that. She is good at being a bitch. And you know what? I'm going to give her another thing. She's good at also maneuvering politics within an organization, press, politics, being a bitch, all of that she's great at. And that maybe if you're a CEO, that's a few things you need to know something about. But you also need to know how to actually make movies and be a visionary, which she's not, and she never will be.
Yeah, but and that's exactly what Spielberg said. She's good at firing people. So
Yep.
whenever he didn't want to
Mic
deal with
drop.
that,
Exactly.
he gave it to KK.
She
Well-
is the person. Yes.
Well,
And
Spielberg has changed since he first started directing, isn't he? Because he doesn't argue with anybody on a set. You hear that story with him and Matt Damon when they were
Matt
doing
Damon.
when they were doing
Damon.
Saving Private
Matt
Ryan.
Damon.
That the only scene, one of the first very scenes that Matt Damon did, they shot it. Spielberg said action, and they shot it, and then Spielberg said cut. Great, let's move on. And Matt Damon was a bit pissed. He was like, what can we do that again? You know, I don't think I gave a good performance. And Spielberg, right, he doesn't argue with anybody. He literally said to Matt Damon, okay, why don't you do it again while I go and get a better shot over there? And that's how he dealt with it. And he walked away. So, and Matt Damon felt really pissed off because he wouldn't give him a second chance to do it. But Spielberg, because he has no experience behind him, he knows what a good shot is. He knows if he's got it. He knew he had it. So he just moved on.
he's
got no time
non.
to talk. He's got no time to talk and discuss it with actors. He needs to keep moving.
He's turned into Stanley Kubrick in his old age. Kubrick used to have his assistants talk to the actors because he would never address anyone directly.
No. Stanley Kubrick did direct people directly. He did. You all you got to do is look at the documentary on The Shining.
Oh,
The amount of shit he gave to what's her name?
No,
It's crazy.
I mean, outside of the camera, when the camera wasn't running and he needed to instruct people, he would always have, because what's his name? He was sitting in his dressing room and the assistant comes and he's like, Mr. Kubrick would like to see you. And they go in and he's talking to the assistant and then Kubrick's talking to the assistant. Like he never addressed him directly.
Well, you have the first assistant director usually is the one that, you know, if you don't want to deal something, you just tell that person to do that, whatever. And he's the one that actually shapes the crew on production. So yeah, you've got some really good firsts and stuff like that. So, and Stanley Kubrick had a really good one. Spielberg had a really good one. As I said, Spielberg he has so much experience behind him. He knows exactly what he's doing. You don't argue with Spielberg. What's the point? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he was directing when he was 17. Do you know?
Well, Kennedy inadvertently attributed the successes of movies that she was accidentally associated with as the successes of herself.
Yeah,
and you know,
there was that story that Tom Hanks told. He said that when he was doing that film with Meryl Streep, I can't remember, was the press, was some press thing they were doing. Him and Meryl Streep, they did a rehearsal, right? This whole scene, they spent all night doing the rehearsal, and then when they came on set and they were ready for Spielberg said, right, what are you gonna do? Is you're gonna be talking, and the camera's gonna follow this bag, and it's gonna go past you, and we're gonna follow this bag. So the camera wasn't even focusing on them; it was following this guy carrying a bag. Do you know what I mean? And they got slightly pissed off, but then they realized it's Spielberg. He knows what he's doing. So they
was
didn't
that
say
the
anything,
Post?
right? The Post, yeah, it was the Post.
Yeah, okay.
So there you go.
Zip, you available, please, my friend?
I most certainly am. Joe Eager for $10 said, I thought the assistant girl Layla was Andor's sister. Anyway, I thought 30% of Andor was the best TV I've seen in years, and 70% was filler.
Yeah, 70%.
I would have put it the other way around, 70-30.
Oh, does he mean does he mean Kyla, the Luthen's assistant?
Possibly. She could very well have been.
You know, there were a lot of orphan women in this show. Yeah, there were actually plenty of red herrings to be Andor's sister, but they never even addressed it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was the driving force behind the first 3 episodes. That was his sole motivation.
That's the whole series has been built on that stupid sister. If you look at episode 1 of Andor, it's called The Name of His Sister. I think whatever his name of the sister is, that's like the first episode, because the only thing that matters to this guy is his sister. And by the final episode, he doesn't remember that he has a sister. He doesn't remember that he has a girlfriend, and he's a fucking idiot.
And on that bombshell,
I could eat the hell out of some Weetabix right now. That's a good
okay.
one.
Z, do you want to read this, mate? It's from
Yes. If Disney wants to make some real money on Star Wars' 50th anniversary in 2027, just put the original untouched version of Star Wars back in the cinema. No A New Hope, no special edition, just the pure 1977 release we fell in love with.
I mean that they had a screening at the BFI and that sold
Yeah.
out within an hour.
Yeah,
So,
that's,
yes.
that's due on the 12th, isn't it? 12th
Yeah.
of June, and yeah, that sold out instantly. They've
Yeah.
got an original print, although Lucasfilm have an original print of all of them, and they cleaned up and restored them prior to the bastardizations of
Yes.
special editions.
Yes.
So they do have them. They
Mm.
can put them out there. I, for one, would certainly be going to this if it played at my local big screen.
So would I. So would I.
Yeah.
And somebody sent it to me via, I don't know, but I watched it and it just took me back to when I was the first time I saw it in the cinema. All the grain on the picture and everything.
Yeah.
The little circles when they had to switch reels was on there as well. And I just loved it. I probably watched it like 6 times now, that version.
I'll just say, I know Kathy watches our streams every week. Kathy, if you want the big win, swallow a little bit of pride. Put the original version out in 2
Do it.
years. Do it, Kathy. Go
I'd be
on.
really surprised if she did.
Go on, Kathy. Do it for us. Go on.
I told Z, I think I misread this tweet because I mentioned when I tweeted Z that A New Hope was Star Wars' slave name, and we definitely shouldn't use that.
That isn't that poster Star fantastic Wars. Though. Look at that poster; it's fantastic. What a great poster! I think this was the British poster, right? And the Americans had the musical one, didn't they? But I think this was the British poster.
Let's not forget, Ian. You thought Star Wars was a musical,
of course, because of the other poster. But
just 9-year-old me looking at this poster is just thinking, "Holy shit! What the hell is this?
Yeah,
I want some of this."
We had the sexy Leia holding the pistol, grabbing Luke's leg, and they're both fantastic. If you notice, movie posters in general are just awful now. Just like
Z, you're on that poster.
I am, and look. Yeah. Although that Wookiee's a bit tall than I remember.
Wait, are you sure this is the UK poster? Because I saw this when I was like 17 when the movie came out.
Yeah, I think this is the UK one. I'm not sure though, because I remember when I first saw the poster, it was the American one with the, it looked like a musical. That's why I didn't want to go and see it with my brother. But and then I think when it got re-released, it was this poster. I think.
What's the other poster with the who's that famous artist who died recently?
Hildebrandt.
Yeah, the other poster was Hildebrand, wasn't
it? I'm probably wrong about it. I'm probably wrong.
The original wasn't, but the brothers Hildebrandt did a recreation of that poster, basically all the same elements, but in their style.
That's the one where you've got the bare-chested Luke.
Right, and
the
Leia,
giant Vader head on the back, and Leia looking seductive and sexy.
Yeah, showing some sexy leg and holding the pistol. Yeah. So there's 2 versions of that poster going around. I don't know who painted the original, but the brothers Hildebrandt did a recreation of it.
You go, Professor R2, Wrench, Will Sport, hello, Prof. I would buy a dozen tickets to see Star Wars in theatres today.
The thing is, though, I don't mind if they clean it up, but keep the original version. But as I said, the version I saw had lots of grain on it when he was in the desert, 3PO was in the desert and stuff like that. I don't mind if they clean that up, but please do not stick the CGI stuff in there and just show us the original Star Wars. I'd go and see it. Definitely go and see it.
Oh yeah, I don't know who wouldn't, man. They would make a ton of money.
Yeah, but they don't want to pander to us.
Would it do a billion if they released it for, say, for 3 weeks? We'll say.
I don't know.
I reckon it would do 400 million, which I don't know if that's the highest ever on a re-release.
Yeah, it would be. It would break records, wouldn't it?
Again, I always equate George Lucas to Gene Roddenberry. These people created these fantastic IPs, but unfortunately, they weren't very good at pushing it forward. George Lucas wasn't very good at pushing it forward, and Gene Roddenberry wasn't either. But you got to take your hat off to them. They created something that's timeless, haven't they?
Oh,
I mean,
Tom Young painted that poster.
Right.
The re-release of Revenge of the Sith this year has become the second highest grossing re-release.
So people want real Star Wars. That's why. They don't
Brown, I
want
sent you
Disney
one
Star
of the. I sent you the other poster.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Even though I can't, my computer's playing up.
They don't want Disney Star Wars. They don't want to be lectured.
No.
They just want an adventure. That's all. I mean, as I said, I watched it again and I just thought it was marvelous that the whole thing, everything about it was just fantastic.
I think I watched the first 15 minutes of it. You could tell the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we sidestep?
Yeah, that's the post I thought was a
Sure.
musical.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah, that's the
yeah.
Hildebrand poster.
This,
Just-
yeah,
Luke
48
is
years
wearing
ago
Vader's.
today.
Sorry.
You will be 48 years ago today.
I mean, Princess Leia for.
Hello.
Hello.
Luke
You
is
want to go
wearing-
just for that, don't you?
Yes.
Luke is wearing Vader's boots in this poster,
Actually-
and Leia is holding Han's blaster.
It's not this poster. It's the other poster I thought was a musical. Yeah. The other
There
one.
was like a one with a blue hue, wasn't there, which was very
Yes.
similar to this. Yeah, this
That's
is
the
original.
that's the Hildebrandt repaint.
That's the one.
Right.
You can just hear the disco music, can't you, Ian?
Yes. Why is there an
Star
echo?
Wars.
There was an echo just a minute ago, but it's gone.
There
now.
was.
Again, right. I can't. I mean, anyone that's young in the chat, I can't tell you what it felt like to see Star Wars
Go on.
in the
Go
'70s.
on. Give it a go.
Well, it was just magical. You know, I'm sitting in the cinema thinking this was going to be shit. The lights go down.
But you,
These
you
huge
thought it
curtains
was go-
open.
Go
Yeah, I
on,
thought it was going to
tell
be
me-
shit.
You
And
thought it was
then-
going to be a musical, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be musical. But no,
Tell-
my brother
tell
told
everybody-
me.
Yeah, tell everybody the story. Go on.
Well, I saw the poster. My brother said, "Come and see Star Wars," and I was like, "But it's a musical." And he goes, "It is a musical." I said, "Look, you can tell by the poster it's a musical." Anyway, he basically forced me. And when we got to the cinema, which was the Dominion, it wasn't the Empire; it was the Dominion. It was screening in. We got there, and the queue was around the block twice.
Damn.
Right, so we had to wait in the queue because my brother. I was saying, "Let's go home." My brother was saying, "No, let's wait."
How
And
long
they
did you wait for?
2 hours. And there were police on horseback trying to push the crowd back onto the pavement. That's how big Star Wars was. And when we got into the cinema, I think it was the third screening, which was 9. I think it started at 9. We were in there after the Corolla adverts and stuff like that, and the Pearl and Dean. Right when it started, first of all, I was amazed how loud it was, the sound, because it was Dolby, whatever it was. Second of all, I was just blown away by the ship that came right over my head and just kept going. And I thought, what the fuck is this?
The Star Destroyer
Yeah.
chasing after the blockade runner is just the most epic opening to a movie.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely blew me away. It was like it was above my head
Yeah.
because the booming sound coming out of the speakers
Mm.
and the deep rumble as it got bigger and bigger and it didn't fucking stop.
No, it didn't. Yeah. And again, right, you'd never seen anything like that in any movie. Literally, it was a big star field in front of you, and the screen was huge. It was 70mm, the way I saw it, because in the West End, and it was like you were there, right? Because I mean, today it's just normal when you see things like that, but in those days, it was the first time you saw something that big and that expensive. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's hard to explain to young kids how you felt when you first saw Star Wars. It changed a lot of people's lives.
We've never seen anything like this before.
No.
Never have, never will.
That
it was
movie
just
saved
astonishing.
lives.
It changed lives. I mean, James Cameron got really pissed off when he saw this film because he said, "I should have made that film." That's what he said. And he was driving trucks at the time, and he literally gave up his job driving trucks, and he literally packed all his stuff and went. I think it was into LA and then joined that low budget film arm, whatever it was, building sets. So it changed his life. Star Wars changed his life. So changed my life, that's for sure. Yeah. A lot of people's lives. Yeah.
I was just sort of mocking what they say today when they put out a really gay movie.
Ian, what would you have done if you hadn't have listened to your brother and you went, "Fuck this, I'm going home"? Where would you be? where would you be now? Do you think?
Probably working in Asda's or something with 10 kids. Probably. I don't know. But I shit you not, anyone that's in the chat that's young, I shit you not, this film literally changed a lot of people's lives. A lot. Even if they didn't become filmmakers, they became writers or model builders, or do you know what I mean?
I had the models, I
Yeah.
had the models.
So, yeah. It's one of
Swappers,
the
you're a bit
main
quiet
things.
there.
No, I'm just absorbed in what Ian was saying about the original release. A lot of us here on this panel were all there at the time, and I'm sure we can all share in that memory, really, how the world was different before and after that film's release. Drastically different.
Yeah.
Right down to normie level, not just hardcore sci-fi fans or anything. It was it was like the landscape changed. Suddenly we saw a different planet.
Yeah.
Bill S. Preston Esquire. I should have stolen that film, James Cameron.
Yeah, that's what he said. And I remember I had this friend, right? He's a next door neighbor named Roger, a big black guy, really nice guy. He used to drive his chopper around the estate. And every time I met him, he'd always quote something from Star Wars. His favorite character was Han Solo, and he'd know all the lines from Han Solo in the film. And remember, there was no such thing as the internet. We couldn't see clips anywhere. We literally had to go to the cinema or read a magazine about Star Wars. And this guy on his chopper bike knew every line that Harrison Ford said in the film.
So this big black guy on a chopper bike is riding around a housing estate shouting out, "You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing."
Yep. I'm not even kidding either. Every time I met him, he would say a line from Star Wars. That's how much he liked it. He was he
was gargling all of Chewbacca's lines as well.
No, well, he couldn't do Chewbacca. I think one of my other friends could. But he was so obsessed with Han Solo's character. He knew all the lines, and I think he saw it 20 times or some nonsense like that in the cinema. Because what you do is you go to the one in the West End, see it properly, and because you couldn't afford to go back there again, you'd go to the Flea Pit cinemas and watch it with scratches on it and stuff like that. So you'd see that loads of times. Yeah. So
Atlanta had 2 70mm theaters. A really famous one called the Columbia. That's where I saw it. I remember waiting in line like 20 hours to see Empire at the same place.
Here you go. Georgius Rex, a black man idolizing a white character. Get out of here.
Yeah. But in those days, we didn't care what color the person was.
Nobody cared.
When Empire came out, I loved Lando. I thought Lando was brilliant. And so did my other friends as well. Yeah. They loved Lando. I thought, they wanted to see Lando in. I remember everybody was trying to guess, because we all thought Darth Vader was lying when we saw Empire. I remember in school, everybody was saying, "Nah, he's definitely lying. Can't be Luke's father." The next one we'll find out, whatever. And little did we know it was the truth. Okay. So there you
go. Let's move on then.
To move on far.
45 years ago today, The Empire Strikes Back.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
I love Empire Strikes Back.
That's what they should do. Release the original uncut version of Star Wars on its 50th. The same again on Empire Strikes Back in 5 years' time, and then Return of the Jedi.
I would go one further, and I would if I was in charge of Star Wars and it was coming up, I would go release them, and I would go to Ada One, and I would say, "Mate, come on, let's get your version up there as well. Let's and I would do that as well." Because he's a super fan, and look what he did with it. I would do that if I was KK. I would go right.
Yeah,
because then you appreciate the fans. You should appreciate the fans.
There were people literally living at the movie theater, watching the movie, and going straight back to the end of the line after it was over, and they did that 7-8 times for a week. They're living out of their car or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how hobos work, but because you'd see the same faces, and you'd see the guy, and they run back. Like as soon as the movie's over, they're running to get to the back of the line.
And then when you hear that C-3PO is going to be on the Muppet Show, you'd be there, waiting for it to start on TV because you're going to see C-3PO. Do you know what I mean? That's how much of an impact Star Wars had.
Did anybody else here see the live broadcast of the Star Wars Holiday Special?
No, not me.
Nope.
I
No.
did. I remember just being very confused.
I mean,
I thought it was some kind of joke.
Yeah.
I can't talk for Swappers. I know Swappers is a huge fan of Star Wars, even more so than me.
Oh,
But he was born in a different time, obviously, because you
Not
guys,
half.
Swapper, you didn't see Star Wars, the original Star Wars, obviously, because how old were you?
Oh no, I saw the first one, Star Wars. I saw that in the cinema when I was 5. So because in the UK
Right.
we got it like sort of a year later than the States, didn't we? I think because
Yes,
it
we
took
did.
a time.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, so I was
It
I was-
premiered in 77, but it wasn't on general release until 78.
That's it. Yeah. So that I was 5 when I saw it. So I saw that one. Didn't get a chance to see Empire in the cinema, unfortunately. But I read all about the comics. I heard the radio drama. Had all the toys and stuff. So it was kind of like I did see it. Really, I've spoken to everyone that had watched it, and they all spoiled it for me. So it was like I saw the film without seeing the film. And back then, you didn't really care that much about spoilers. You just wanted to watch everything you could. And I saw Return of the Jedi in cinema when it came out. But my parents, because I created such a fuss about not seeing Empire in the cinema, they said, we've got to fucking take him to see Empire. Like, we'll never hear the end of it. He'll disown us if we don't take So they made sure, like opening week, I went to see Jedi in the cinema, thank God. But I'm a few years younger than you, so you were a bit more mature when you saw the first film.
I think I was early teens when I saw the first Star Wars. Yeah.
So you were a bit more, kind of a bit more level-headed and critical about what you were watching, I suppose.
I mean, the thing is that I was definitely into movies and stuff like that, but I just thought I didn't. I hate musicals, so as I said, I didn't want to see it because I thought it was a musical. But again, right, I was just completely blown away by the film. And more so with Close Encounters as well, when I saw Close Encounters. But let me tell you, right, that's what you did. You saved up your money to see the film properly in the West End. And because it was so expensive to go to the West End, and it stayed in the West End for like 3 weeks before it actually hit the smaller cinemas in the boroughs. So once it hit the smaller cinemas in the boroughs, you can go and see it for 50p and sit in the cinema and watch it over and over until they kick you out.
50p?
Yeah, it was 50 pence.
So London only has one proper 70mm movie theater?
Yeah, it was the Dominion and it was the Empire in those days. They had two that could only show 70mm. But then obviously the crappy prints, they used to just put them in the small little cinema.
Manuel Grell wrench all night. I saw Return of the Jedi 6 months before official release in Germany because my dad knew the guy who did all the PR for 20th Century Fox in Germany. Wow. That's how I got most of the Kenner toys. Damn.
You lucky.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Bastard.
Yeah.
Have you still got them?
That's just, oh my God, that's such an envious position, isn't it, to be in? Good Lord.
I remember. Sorry, go ahead. Go on.
No, I was too old, or I thought I was too old for toys at the time, but I hadn't started collecting the things yet. So I really regret not getting them. But I don't know I don't think anybody knows for sure because the contract isn't public. But what I heard is Disney is contractually unable to release the original movies because that was part of the deal that Lucas negotiated when he sold them, because he hates the originals because they weren't, quote, his vision.
He's so annoying because really he should have been fighting for creative input for stuff like that. Instead, all he got them to agree to is that they won't show the originals anymore. That was his big win.
I think so I don't understand how the NFT got hold of the original version. How is that possible? How come they don't have to go through Disney?
No, it was archived, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
No, if you own, back then, theaters actually bought prints of the film and they owned it. So an individual theater can show it whenever they wanted to, but Disney wouldn't be able to do a wide release of it.
I remember
back then in the Q-Mark days.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I actually worked as a projectionist. So I'd splice the
Mm.
film together, run it, got to see it, got into all the movie theaters in town for free. And a lot of the films had a library of all the films that they owned, and they would run, 1 or 2 nights, the original 2001, stuff like that.
There's a lot of man babies in the chat who had Kenner toys and mother sold them on. Fuck.
My brother had all of them from Empire. He had the Walker. He had the snow thing. He had everything.
My friend had them all as well. Yeah.
My dad brought most of it for my brother Richard. We were so jealous. But yeah, I remember going to see Empire, and I remember watching it in the West End and then seeing it in a flea pit cinema. And I remember there was this kid sitting next to me, because in those days, when you bought a ticket, you just run in and you can sit anywhere you want. There was no such thing as booking a seat or anything like that. You could just sit anywhere you want. And I was sitting next to this kid because it was so packed. And when the film ended, that last picture there where, you see Princess Leia, and he just started crying. He was bawling his eyes out. And I was saying to him, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "They lost. How could they have lost?" And he's like, I think he was like 10 or something. And he just started crying. And I could see all the tears coming out of his face and everything. I was like, shit, where's his parents?
That's how invested we were as kids.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on then. Oh, here you go. 7 years ago today, Solo, a Star Wars story, released in theaters.
Nobody even remembers that.
Who gives a shit? Yeah,
Right.
Watched it once.
I watched it once. That's it.
One more time than me.
That's when
I mean, the truth is, there's worse things that Disney has done aside from this. If they would have made like great movies and then they just released it and it was just whatever and people forgot about it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But it's not a good movie, and neither is anything else they released, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, we forgot to say, hashtag Solo lost money. Yeah.
It's a shame, really. They literally destroyed Lando Calrissian's character in this film.
Turned him into a robosexual.
Yeah, I know. Ridiculous, right?
Absolutely crazy. But the worst thing is Phoebe Waller-Bridge in it.
Yeah, it's all rubbish.
Yeah.
Why have they lumped this with the original Star Wars?
This
is not Star Wars. This is not Star Wars.
Riding on the coattails.
They're trying to pretend that it's all the same Star Wars, but then people like us know that it's not the same Star Wars.
It's bollocks.
Yeah, but then people come after us saying we're all bastards who are sad and gammons and incels and shit.
They're entitled to say all that stuff. They're entitled.
I'm not actually convinced Rise of Skywalker made money. Carolyn Reed did a very detailed financial workup of all of the sequels. And given the reshoots and the rush and everything else that went on, I mean, it only made half of what what The Force Awakens made. So there's a chance.
Let's move on then. 2 years ago today, the world lost the great, rest in peace, Ray Stevenson.
He was the only good thing in the Ahsoka show.
And
they didn't know what to do with him.
No.
Like, you could tell that every scene that they gave him any kind of script, he tried to like make it about 10 times better than what it was, and he really worked very hard. But it's kind of a shame that at the end his presence was wasted on that dumb show.
Yeah, I liked the end credits. I thought that was a good part of the show too.
I want to quickly say that Rise of Skywalker lost money, but it took a number of years until they admitted it. It was something that they managed to hide between all their reshoots and a lot of stuff they didn't report. But yes, Rise of Skywalker indeed lost money, and it's important to point that out because it lost money before Solo lost money.
Do you know what, right?
Yeah,
the reason why KK doesn't have any respect for Star Wars is because even at that moment in time, she was in the industry. When people in the industry, they have a different perspective on life. If only she or the rest of the stupid mob that's part of Disney Star Wars experience what we experienced when we first saw Star Wars, and how significant it was in our lives and in millions of people's lives, they wouldn't be treating it so badly. That's
She was
what I
never a
think.
fan of it. I've seen interviews with her, and she doesn't seem like she's even excited about it. She
Mhm.
just took it, and it's the same thing with like Kurtzman and all those other idiots. She took it because she thought that she's now the boss and she can do whatever she wants, and she's going to do all of her stupid propaganda. And she got her way. At the end, she's the big winner. We're the
Mhm.
losers, and she's the big winner. She managed to take over Star Wars. She ruined it, and now she has hundreds of millions of dollars and 70 million awards, and nobody's ever going to say anything bad to her. And she's going to walk out with her head held high, and everybody's going to tell her that she's the best. And we are the biggest losers in this whole story.
But that's not
No,
the
you're
case,
the biggest
though, is
loser.
it? But that's not the case, is it? Everybody
And
knows
you're
that she's
guilty
the
by
one that
association,
destroyed.
Brown.
She
Yes.
destroyed Star Wars. Everybody knows that.
Yeah,
There's not.
you
there's
and
not
I
one
know that.
person.
You and I know that.
No,
There's enough
everybody
idiots out
knows it.
there that this is going to be a battle of narratives for many years. Maybe at the end, more and more people acknowledge it. But even if they do, what does she care? She has so much money. This was nothing. This was like I said, instead of knitting sweaters in the garden, they let her ruin Star Wars. That's what she did.
Yeah. Seriously.
Well, you can just tell she's so resentful because she knows that she never really did anything, and she's taking credit from all of the people in her life whose coattails she rode down in on.
Yeah.
And when
So
it
do you
came her
think,
time to shine, all she did was fail. And with each successful failure, she got more and more bitter until she was ready to burn it all down.
Indeed.
we've still got
Okay.
a circuit season 2 to go. Do you think Rory McCann's going to do any better?
Who gives a shit?
We'll
We'll
just
cover
quickly.
it, though.
Here you go. Who saw this? We're getting onto the shit stuff now. Disney has submitted Star Wars The Acolyte for Emmys consideration 20 categories, including Outstanding Drama, Lee Jung Chai, Outstanding Lead Actor in Drama Series, Amanda Stenberg,
Fuck off.
something.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Leslie Headland, Outstanding Director for a Drama Series.
That is
Price, any views on
Absolute
that?
bollocks.
They've made a mistake. It's not the Emmys. It's the raspberries, isn't it?
Razzies.
The
It's
Razzies. We made a
It's
mistake.
Whatever they are.
It's the only way it's going to get any awards.
Raspberry, she lacks a discipline. She not do a very good job.
Honestly.
Are you leftist?
But you
No,
are like
you-
my daughter.
I'm absolutely convinced he was just reading off phonetic flashcards.
It was
the
still
way through
better than
the
everybody
series.
else, though.
I don't
It's-
even. What were their names? The two Stenberg. I don't even remember their names.
Soul. His
Osher and
name was
May.
Soul. That's what I remember.
Yeah, you know that's a soap brand. Leslie
Right.
was just
Yeah.
Oh,
buying
yeah.
soap online, and she.
Osha and May.
That's, oh man, you lack a discipline, but you a good daughter.
Lee Jung Jae is genuinely a good. He is genuinely a good actor. It's just on this show. I mean, like you guys said, he was probably reading off cue cards, and even then, at least his expressions looked interesting.
Who was the
Bloody Laurence
Manny,
Olivier.
Was it Manny? What's his face? He was all right, isn't it?
Manny Koto.
Manny Jacinta.
Well, he wasn't terrible.
Just
His
didn't say
character
that.
was dumb.
Better than a lot of those other
Yeah.
people. isn't it?
It's
Well,
rubbish.
freaking
come
Sir
on,
Laurence
guys.
Olivier couldn't have done anything with this
Hey,
material.
Mog was in it as well. Oh, Mog. Swappers, are you available to read this? Please?
Mog in the chat with
In
Wrench
genuine Mog, yes.
says, she sure directed the hell out of me.
Honestly, this
No-
this
all
show
right,
sucks.
Mog.
Nothing about that show made any sort of logical or narrative sense. It was just completely ridiculous. I still don't see how anybody could have taken that show seriously.
Mm.
I remember we were kind of okay with it till episode 3, then it just fell off a cliff. If you
How
remember.
the floating Jedi force field and the
Oh, I
poison.
don't know. Well, it did give us the witch.
Power of many.
Many. It gave us the witches that died on the force feedback.
Why are we
Piss funny.
talking about this?
All right.
Why are we talking about so much
Last
shit?
slide then, everybody, and then we're
Good.
out of here.
Star Wars.
Brian Johnson still wants to make his Star Wars trilogy.
They should let him make it.
And on that bombshell, shall we finish there?
Yep. Sounds like a good place to finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is it, folks. You've got 1 hour of bonus Brown. So that is it, folks. Thank you for the turning up the interaction, the super chats, and just being there, folks. That's it. I'll thank the guests. Star Wars Retold Swappers. Cheers, Swaps.
Thank you. Thanks to those folks in the chat that joined us again for the second part. Thanks, Brown. Thanks to the chat. Thanks to the guests, rather. Lovely to see you all this week. That it's not on a Wednesday. Enjoy your bank holiday tomorrow if you're in the UK.
Yes. Memorial Day, everybody.
In the States, I think it's Memorial Day. That's right. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I shall see you soon. And subscribe to Star Wars Retold. Thank you.
Yeah, stick your link in the doodad, mate. Z3PO.
Thank you very much. It's very good to have me on for a Brown Power Hour.
Nice.
It was quite enjoyable. It's good to be here, and thanks to the panel, thanks to the chat, and I'll see you on Wednesday for the last Andor stream.
Oh, it's gonna be good.
Oh, yes.
The brilliant Price of Leslie.
Well, thank you, and please subscribe to Price of Reason Live, my live stream channel.
Throw your link in the doodad, mate.
I throw it. It's different than my usual channel. So I have the regular, like the reviews one and the live one. I put the one for the live one because I'm trying to build it.
Don't forget the Rumble links too.
We're all trying to build it, mates. Mega Geek. Cheers, Ian.
Yeah, no worries. In fact, subscribe to the Rebecca Gold channel. Is all I can say.
I think your channel is in the description every stream. So.
Cool.
It's the Phobos. Cheers, mate. Good to have you on.
Shit, you got me thinking about the Acolyte again. Now,
no, don't do it.
I'll do it. Cheers, chat. Thanks for having me on. You can just subscribe to my channel. One day there might be videos on there. It's at Istophobos YouTube. So thank you.
And that is it. Please like, share, subscribe, everybody.
Ta-da.
That is it, folks. Beast up tomorrow. Don't know. Trev has got the night off. We're back Wednesday doing Andor, the last season arc. Yeah. If we don't see you during the week, folks, have a great week. Enjoy your day off tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Time